Hello.
Hi, we're back.
Today I want to talk about a book I just read. Shocking. Dun, dun, dun. Holly reads a lot of books. On this episode of Holly Reads a Lot of Books, we're going to talk about...
Might as well just have a book club.
You know, I've done a couple book clubs. I just really love to read. I get a lot of knowledge out of it.
Yes,
I like it.
Yes. I like to nerd out too. I'll share some of that later. But what's your book about?
So I just finished reading a book by Joseph Murphy. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. It is not a new book. It's kind of an older book. And I just really enjoyed it. And I think this is one of those books that everybody in the world should read, like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So I just think everybody in the world needs to read this book. Whether you do it by audiobook or you read it a paper copy, I think you should read it.
So what stood out to you most in the book, and why do you want to talk about the woo-woo subconscious mind?
Okay, so it stood out to me most as a way that you can manifest the life that you want. And when I think of the subconscious mind, I don't necessarily correlate that to manifesting. I would think like The Secret or, you know, The Power of Manifesting or whatever, you know, like a tool like that would be what I would think of. But The Power of the Subconscious Mind, I thought it was just going to be about like psychology and how we view the world and how we think of ourselves.
Well, that's how I know when you think about subconscious, and I'll share some of that later. That's how I know of subconscious is through psychology and doing all my work.
Yeah, and I love psychology.
I do too. Yeah.
And that's like, so that's kind of what I thought I was getting into is like more of a psychology, which it does talk about those things. But what I wasn't expecting was for it to explain to me in this different way that actually resonated with me better than any other manifestation tool, how changing the patterns of your thoughts and your subconscious thoughts, which is different than your conscious thoughts, can actually attract the life that you want. And then I started practicing some of those things, and I have seen some freaking magic in my life in the last little bit. And I'm like, there's something to this, and I just want to share it with all of you because I'm just a giver like that.
So I am all about like manifesting, you know, the things that I would like to see in my life. So I do that as well. So I might read this book. Oh, shocker.
You should read this book.
I might read this book.
Before we get too deep into this, let's talk about, first of all, the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind.
You read my mind because you did mention that, and you said subconscious and unconscious.
The conscious and the subconscious mind.
Conscious and subconscious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because for people that don't understand what that means.
So I know it as because I majored in psychology and therapy and counseling. So
Hashtag Brainiac.
I don't know. Some days are better than others, but I do know a lot about the geeky stuff. So there is a philosopher called Sigmund Freud. So if you've taken any psychology class, you've probably heard about him. But I got, you know, I guess you can call me a Freudian because I'm really in line with his thoughts and thinking. So I looked it up online just to make sure that I was telling you guys the correct information because it's been a while since I've been in school. But there's 3 parts of the brain that the Freudian theory talks about. It's called the id, like ID, the ego, and the superego. So you have these 3 parts in your brain that are all working together to make decisions, basically. And so let me read to you. The id, according to Freud, this is from verywellmind.com, by the way. According to Freud, the id is the source of the psychic energy, making it the primary component of personality. The id is the only component of personality that is present from birth. We can look at this as our natural instinct or primitive behaviors. So this
is who you are.
This is subconscious.
Okay.
So this is like, an example would be when, like that fight or flight or freeze or something like that instinctual moment where you feel fear and your body just reacts. So that's that.
That's the id part of your brain.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the subconscious, the most basic part, I guess you can call it.
Okay.
And then it gets into the ego. So it says, according to Freud, the ego develops from the id. So you're developing this as you grow up, and ensures that the impulses of the id can be expressed in a manner that's acceptable to the world. So this is that filter.
Like, oh, socially acceptable to do this, not socially acceptable to do that. Like when you're a toddler, okay, got in trouble for knocking over that last time, not going to do that this time.
Right.
Okay.
So that ego is getting from the world around us,
Seeking
from the
approval
environment,
and
is getting
in.
developed. The ego's getting developed by that. Like when you touch a hot stove, it hurts.
Don't do that again.
Don't. Yeah, your mind kind of takes that and says, or the ego takes that and is like, okay, we're going to filter that next time so that we can make an appropriate decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the super ego. So to backtrack, the ego is the conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious mind. So it's kind of like that filter for all the things. And then the ego is the personality component responsible for dealing with reality.
The superego or
the ego? Okay. This is the ego. Now I'm going into the superego. Okay. I just wanted to finish the explanation.
Okay, got it.
So the superego is the last component of the personality to develop. According to Freud, the superego begins to emerge at around age 5. So if you guys have children, kind of think about their personalities developing from 5 and up and see if you can relate to this. Or even if you don't, see if you can, think back in your life and relate to it. So the superego holds the internalized moral standards and ideals that we require from our parents and society. So our sense of right and wrong. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of similar to the ego. And then the superego provides guidelines for making judgment. So it's like that deeper delve into the understanding of doing things.
Okay.
So you have all of those, your subconscious and conscious kind of working together to make moral, rational decisions every day.
So in the book, it kind of explains it. They don't go that deep into the brain, and they just explain conscious and subconscious. So the way they explained it in the book to me was, or to the world, not just to me. He didn't just write this book for me. But he explains it to say, like, the conscious brain is like the thoughts that you have. Like, I am conscious that I'm having this thought right now. Like, this, I want to do good on this test, and I am trying to study for it. Those are conscious thoughts. Mm-hmm. Now, subconscious thoughts are the thoughts that are running in the background that you don't notice. Mm-hmm. Like, the best example I have of a subconscious thought is, like, you're trying to eat good, and you buy all this healthy food, and you're trying to eat a good diet, and then suddenly you find yourself eating a giant bag of marshmallows out of the pantry, and you're like, why am I eating these? I didn't even want these. Because you had some subconscious thought happen in a split second that you didn't notice. And that programming is running in the background of some belief that you have or some trauma that you haven't worked through that is telling a different story than what your conscious brain is telling you. Okay. So that's the difference that they go into in this book, and how you're never going to get where you want to be until you understand that first there is a subconscious mind and how to change the thoughts of your subconscious mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, one of the ways that I like to hone in on that is, just being positive and the power of positive thinking, so, and I know you do a lot of that too. Mm-hmm. And so what does that look like for you?
So positivity is a conscious decision. You have to make the decision to be positive. And that's not to say, like, I'm ignoring all of my problems, that I'm just going to be airy-fairy and pretend that everything's wonderful. It's making a choice to see the silver lining in even the worst scenarios. So making that choice and having that conscious thought process, the more you can do that, the more it's going to change the subconscious mind. So if I'm consciously saying, if I catch myself in a negative loop where I'm like, oh, you're such an idiot, Holly, and I catch myself and I'm like, oh, you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. That's okay. This is just some little thing and I'm going to work through that. Then it starts to, the more I can do that, the more it changes the pattern that's in my head that I subconsciously think, oh, you're an idiot, Holly, and you're never going to get that right.
So it's kind of like, to bring it back to like the Freudian stuff. So it's kind of like your id, or your, the id is telling you that you're an idiot. And then you have the ego that's coming behind and saying, whoa, 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 we're not an idiot. Like, let's look at this a different way, you know? Mm-hmm. So you kind of have like those pieces kind of working together, because your first thought is, I'm an idiot. Your second thought is like, wait a second. No, give yourself some grace. Let's not take it to heart. Like, it's kind of like that little cleanup man behind you saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's not do that. And then eventually, I think you get into, did I just take the words out of your mouth?
Yeah, you would go though.
Eventually you get to the point where that first thought is not the first thought, the second thought is the first thought. Yeah. And then it just continues to grow from there.
Yeah. And then also, I had another thought. Oh no, I lost it. Shit. The conscious mind lost the conscious thought. I hate it when that happens.
Go into your subconscious. But we were talking, like, so that's kind of like manifestation,
Yes, which I didn't think, like, I've heard manifestation before, and I've tried to do, like, let's manifest, like, and nothing has ever been, like, successful for me in that aspect, and I was thinking, like, maybe that's just not really a thing until this book.
So I remember when I was first learning this thought process, and first learning, like I had read The Secret. So that was kind of like my first thing, and I was like, this book is really weird. I wasn't ready for it at the time. But then as I got older and started, thinking about being positive and like going through my journey with gratitude, which is what we talked about last episode, as I started to do that, I started realizing the meaning behind it and why it's so powerful. I loved that.
Yeah, so I've started doing... Okay, let me just say, if you are not a meditator, do not panic, okay? This is going to be the easiest form of meditation you'll ever hear of in your entire life. Okay? And it's fun. So I've started doing what I'm calling the bridge meditation, which I'm going to have all of my coaching clients do.
Okay.
So...
Hey, free coaching session.
Yeah, free coaching right here. If you're not driving right now, I want you to try this. So close your eyes.
Okay, I'm doing it too.
Okay. Ideally, you'd have like lovely, soft music playing in the background. But
I have your beautiful voice.
Yes,
does that count?
Yes. Just zone in on my beautiful voice. But get comfortable, get really clear, close your eyes, and then you are going to daydream about the ideal version of your life. Who are you in this ideal version of your life? There are no limits. If you could have everything that you wanted, what would that look like? What do you dress like? What does your body look like? What does your house look like? Who are the people around you? Where do you get to go? What do you get to do? And as you're thinking about those things, think about how having those things feel in your body. What does that feel like? What would a person that felt that way do? What would a person that felt that way say? How would that person enter a room? So that's just like a little miniature version of that.
I'm all zenned out right now, guys.
I like it, yes. But when you practice that, you're literally having the feelings of the person that you want to be, the person that you want to become. And the more you practice that, the more it feels like the person you already are. And your brain can't tell the difference between what is happening right now and what has happened in the past or the future.
Yeah, like a trigger.
Yeah, it cannot tell the difference.
Yeah, it's like that instinct, the id comes in, the instinct comes in, and it clicks, and it goes, oh my gosh, we're here again. And then the fight, flight, freeze comes out.
Yeah. So like one thing that I've been doing, because I really like to do public speaking, I've been practicing like how it feels to be on the stage, what I'm saying, how I feel when I'm on the stage. And I had an opportunity to do some public speaking the other day. And I'll tell you what, I felt way more comfortable because my brain had already practiced that. My brain already knows what that feels like. I already did it essentially, as far as my brain knows. So I am already on the way to becoming this version of myself that I want to be. and it's free practice. You get up when the chance presents itself, you already know what to do. You're already prepared. And then on top of that, your mind starts to behave as that person. So a person that is confident and likes to speak on stages is going to say yes to these opportunities. A person that's not is going to be like, and then the person that's going to be like, maybe I don't want to give you this opportunity. So you're literally manifesting these opportunities with the way that you're carrying yourself because of the way that your subconscious mind has practiced these tools.
So I feel like I do, because I practice manifestation, but I feel like we do this. Like anybody can do this, and they probably already are without realizing it.
But usually like in a negative way.
The stage thing, because it's like, I think of our kids in track right now. They go to practice every day, and they practice and they practice and they practice, and then they get up to the line at the actual race, and they already know what to do. Yes, since they've practiced, they already know what to do, and they've been through the motions, and they're confident and things like that. So I feel like everybody already does this every day in life.
Yeah.
When we put ourselves, when we prepare ourselves for situations, we're already putting ourselves in that manifestation of something good. But in the negative way too.
Yeah. Like if you aren't aware that your subconscious mind is even a thing, think of all the negative patterns you have running. Like give me an example of one you can think of.
So my significant other is in a band, and he is an amazing drummer. He will say otherwise. Well, every once in a while he'll flip-flop, okay? And I think he's an amazing drummer, and his stage presence is just captivating, and he has fun out there, and you can tell he's extremely passionate about music when he's on stage. But before, he's like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to hit a wrong note. Like, I'm the one leading the group. I don't want to, let anybody down. That kind of thing. He, like, what his appearance sometimes he thinks about. And so flipping that, like, I always try to have conversations with him, like, think about how good you're going to do, and think about how good you feel when you're up there, and think about how powerful that is to be on stage and like sharing your music with people and sharing your passion. And so like I always try to have that conversation, like to flip it, and he's like, he's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the reality of it. I'm just gonna be, until I get up there, I'll be fine when I'm up there. And it's always like that. Like he's always fine when he gets up there. But like having that negative self-talk can also make the situation potentially be negative, even if it was amazing.
Yeah. Like I always think of, like, the easiest way for me to think of this is people with like that are trying to eat healthy. Like a person that doesn't know the subconscious mind is even a thing is going to behave much differently. So a person that doesn't understand their subconscious mind might say, I just keep self-sabotaging and I don't know why. And then is telling themselves this story on the back end. Like, I'll give you a personal example, okay? I was sexually abused as a child. So I used food as a barrier. Like if I subconsciously, and it took me a while to figure out that this was what was going on, because I would sabotage myself. Like I'd be doing so good, I'd be eating so healthy, and then all of a sudden I'd go off the rails.
You like 12 cupcakes.
Yeah, and I'm like, why the fuck do I keep doing this?
Yeah. And
I realized it would be something like I'd be out in public and I'd be feeling cute and some guy would notice me and I would feel so uncomfortable. And I would go home and I would eat. And I didn't notice that's what was happening because it would happen in the split second.
Yeah, you were making just that primitive decision.
And in my primitive brain, in my subconscious mind, that didn't feel safe. So I am going to eat some food so that I can be kind of chunky so that I won't draw as much attention to myself. Because that's what your subconscious mind does. It's trying to protect you. And you have these old stories running in your head, and that I don't need that to protect me anymore. I'm a grown woman, and if a creepy guy looks at me, that does not affect me anymore. Like, you can't hurt me because I am a different human now. I'm not a child. But your brain doesn't know that.
So what ways do you process that? Like, put yourself in the situation now. If a guy looked at you, what kind of thoughts or actions would you have now practicing positive thinking?
So now I'm like, that's fine. I feel comfortable in my skin. And if somebody notices, that's their journey, none of my business.
Okay. So you kind of like shifted that mind thought.
Yeah.
Or that thought in your mind.
But the key, if this is something that you are trying to do in any aspect of your life, is to notice, first of all, the subconscious mind does exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do some work, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like, I didn't catch on to this subconscious thought for a long time. Like, there were a lot of things that were also like kind of part of the problem but weren't the issue, and you don't realize what it is until you get below those layers. Sometimes you have to, like, maybe this is it, and then you start acting around that, and you're like, it's a little better. Yeah, I got a little better. And then you're like, there's something else here though. And then you dig a little deeper. Yeah. Until you find what that thing is.
That's like, would you consider it like a block?
Yeah, like a block. Like, you have these mental barriers or these mental blocks and these ways that you keep standing in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to figure these things out. And that's the subconscious mind. You're standing in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Your subconscious mind is like a guardian who is trying to protect you, but maybe doesn't understand that, like an overprotective parent, sometimes in order for you to succeed in life, you have to actually go out into the world.
Yeah, you have to make those choices for yourself and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I'm just like sitting here thinking of some of the blocks that I have, because some of the blocks that people could have could be seem extremely difficult to get out of.
Give me an example.
So I'm thinking about my depression.
Okay.
So 36 years old, I just got diagnosed with depression for the first time ever. And so this is a brand new journey for me. And when I was in the thick of my depression just a few months ago, that was something that seemed like completely hopeless to get out of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm like we talked about in my addiction in the last episode, where I was like, this is my life now. You know, that's kind of how I felt like when I was going through it. Like, this is how it's always going to be. I'm always going to be trudging through the mud, and this is how, you know, those negative first thoughts were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a huge block for me. And I needed some medical intervention for that. But now that my brain is working the way it's supposed to, I'm starting to notice again how I can easily change my thoughts. Like, this is not forever. Like, wow, I see some clarity, and I'm, you know, and so my brain's powerful enough now to walk through those negative thoughts and say, nope, we're not doing that today. This is the way we're going to think today.
Yeah, like, I think, and I want to be sensitive to people that have been diagnosed with depression, because I know that when you're in the thick of it, you don't see a way out of that.
No. Mm-mm.
But I think part of the problem that's scary around things like depression is we put ourselves in this box, like, well, I'm a depressed person, period. Yeah. That's the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just who I am.
This is my identity now. Yeah.
And that's the story that you're telling your subconscious mind. Your conscious thoughts are telling your subconscious mind, I'm a depressed person.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of your conscious mind saying, okay, what if I wasn't? What would that look like? Right. How do I get there?
Mm-hmm.
And exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something we have to be conscious of. Are what stories are we telling ourselves?
Like possibilities are endless kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mind frame.
Like, the story could be, you know what? I had a really hard life and I'm a victim of that. Like we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
Or your story can be, you know what? I had a really hard life and it taught me a lot and I'm freaking grateful for that.
And I'm going to share it with the world.
Yeah. And how you operate out of those stories really defines where you get to go in your life. And that's powerful. Like, there is power in understanding how your mind works and helping to change those thoughts, because that's how you manifest the future that you want.
Yeah. Like, you can literally choose to be happy. Like, you have the choice and the power to choose however you want to feel and whatever you want to do. Like that's so powerful. And sometimes we feel so powerless, like when you have ailments like depression and anxiety, and you talk yourself into not having that choice, but you always have the choice. And just that is such a simple way to reframe your mind, is like, I got the power, you know?
Yeah. And you do. Like, you have the power to choose this. And it sounds like hokey, like, oh, I could choose happiness. But you can choose happiness.
You literally can.
You literally can choose to change your life.
And it's like a simple thought every day. Just one simple thought every day. Like, if you could wake up in the morning and say, today I choose to be happy, or today is going to be a great day.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can set that tone for, your entire day. And then just keep doing that. And then it gets easier, I think.
And I know people are sick of me talking about meditation, but I really think if you can learn to meditate, and even if it's just the daydream one, like, that's an easy, fun one.
Yeah, that was so good.
Like, it feels good and
Mm-hmm.
it feels fun. It's just like playing make-believe with like your dream life, which is like fun to do.
Oh, like MASH?
Yes.
When you got the mansion and the 6 cars and 1 child.
I cheated. I always got the mansion and all the money.
Yeah.
But I like, if you can just get in the habit of daydreaming your best life and tricking your mind into thinking that's like a real thing, your body will start, your mind will start to look for opportunities to make that a real thing.
I wouldn't even say tricking your mind. I would just say
training your mind.
Training.
Yeah,
that's a better word.
Yeah.
Training your mind.
Yeah.
Because your mind is one with you, and you guys need to be best friends.
Yeah. But I think, to summarize, like, you have to first figure out the subconscious mind is a thing.
Okay.
Then you have to use your conscious mind to figure out what those subconscious thoughts are that are holding you back from doing all the things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to start to work on those things. And sometimes that work is changing your thoughts around it, which takes practice, which we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's daydreaming your best life. And once you can start to switch those more and more and more, then you'll start to see opportunities line up that would be meant for the person that you're trying to become, instead of the person you keep circling back into that you don't want to keep being.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to note too, because since we were on the topic of depression and that being a block too, so along with switching your thoughts and doing that, you can also use like medical intervention like I did, or therapy and counseling, or things like meditation and manifestation, and like all of that could be encompassing. Like, just don't stay in the block, don't stay in the shit. Work past that and improve yourself. This is what this whole podcast is about, is improving yourself. And the subconscious and conscious minds are very much the epicenter of doing that, I think.
I agree.
Of just growing.
Yeah. You have to harness the power of your brain.
Brain
juice.
Brain juice.
Speaking of brain juice, food plays into how your brain works too.
Oh, yeah.
And if you are not eating good, you will notice that your brain is not performing as well, both like in like a working capacity, but also like being able to switch some of these thoughts around, because depression is linked to your gut, which I'm not saying your gut's out of balance, but sometimes depression is linked to your gut. And if you aren't taking good care of yourself with the food you're feeding your body, it'll be reflected in the way that your brain chemistry is.
Yeah, I totally agree. So last week I did a cleanse because I ate like shit and drank alcohol over the St. Patrick's Day weekend. And so I did a cleanse, and by day 3, it's like a 3-day cleanse, and I just do raw fruits and veggies, protein, and like a protein shake, and then I have like a normal clean dinner. That works best for me. And then I take supplements too to like induce the cleansing process, I guess. And so by day 3, I was Sally fucking Sunshine at work. Like, I was like, how are you? How are you? Today's gonna be a great day. It's Friday. Like, I was just like all about the love and happiness, and probably annoyed some people, but I just like felt so good from feeding my body good things and like doing. So you can't tell me that the brain is not correlated with the gut. Because I had full proof of it Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had full proof of like, it sounds so weird for me to say manifesting, because that to me just sounds like I'm an airy-fairy, like hokey pokey kind of person. But
same girl.
But manifesting just sounds like, I don't know, like a cringe thing, like manifesting. But I, for lack of a better word, have been manifesting like exciting things in my life. Like things are changing and I can feel them and it is exciting and awesome. And like, if I hadn't changed the way that my subconscious mind was performing, these things would not be changing in my life.
And so I've had people, because I talk about manifestation often and like manifesting this, you know, good life for yourself. And I always tell people like manifesting is like goal setting for your brain, for your mind.
Yeah.
Manifesting is goal setting for your mind. And so if you say, my goal is to buy a car, you start thinking to yourself, I'm going to get the vehicle of my dreams. My vehicle is coming.
You start to imagine yourself as a person driving that vehicle.
Yeah.
As a person that has worked hard for that vehicle. As a person, like, if I'm that person driving that vehicle, I must have saved money for that vehicle.
Right.
And you're starting to feel these feelings of, like, pride of how hard you worked, of how much money you saved. And then your subconscious mind sets you up with patterns in your day-to-day
to get to
there.
To get to the car, or to get what you're manifesting. Yeah. And some people are like, oh, you just can't think of $1 million and it's going to fall in your lap. No. But if you say, I'm going to be a millionaire, and you go through that process that you just described as how how
do I feel? What would a millionaire, how would a millionaire behave?
Right.
What choices would a millionaire make?
Right.
What would my life look like? Because if I get $1 million and I haven't done any of this work, like I win the lottery and I get $1 million, I haven't done any of the subconscious work.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend it all and I'm going to go back to being broke, because that is what my brain says is normal. That's why most people that win the lottery go bankrupt. Like, look at the statistics. Google it if you don't believe me. Most people that win the lottery end up broke because they don't know how to be a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, however much money you win in the lottery.
Yeah.
They don't know how. It feels foreign. And the brain is all about making you feel safe. Foreign is dangerous. So it'll take you back to broke.
It'll take you back to your first thought. Your instinctual thought is to spend.
Yeah. That's like why people in generations that have grown up poor tend to be poor, because that is what they have been taught is normal. And if you can just change your mind to feel and experience and practice what that feels like to not be poor, that's when you start to change those things for real.
Right.
Instead of just like back, forth.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk about my addiction often, or my past addiction. And I remember, when I first got clean and going into the rooms and having all this like gratitude and love and support and just pouring in constantly on a daily basis. And then me having to do that back to people, just evolving my life and all of this goodness, this ooey gooey goodness, It definitely transformed your thought process when you're engulfing your life in that too. So I think that's a good tip to tell people, is if you're trying to make a shift or a change, either in your mind or in your life, like you're not going in the direction you want to go, part of that manifestation is engulfing your life in that. So like, again, for, drug addiction, if you're trying and wanting to get sober, you're not going to go hang out with your drug dealer every day. And if you're going to hang out with the sober people.
Yeah. And if you're trying to get sober, you have to start to help your brain understand what that feels like. Practice what it feels like to be sober. Embrace what it feels like to be sober. And think about what a sober person would do, how a sober person would behave. Because if you are still stuck in this box of I'm an addict and
I will always be an addict.
And this is how I behave, and this is what I always do, and this is the pattern that's running around in the back of your mind. That's what makes it hard, or part of what makes it hard to escape addiction, because you have this pattern running in the back of your mind telling you that's who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to do. And you're going to fail, so why try?
Right. So if you are trying to change your life right now, think about the things we've said. Think about your mind and the changes that you will need to make in your mind and physical to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I think it's good to note that both of us have been through this process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been in a negative Nancy situation and been stuck there, and we've gotten out of it, and now we're able to manifest in, you know, greatness.
Yeah.
And I think both of us have succeeded in that in the past decade. So, yeah.
It's been magic.
It has. I don't know. What final thoughts for listeners?
I want to hear what you guys have manifested in your own life. And if you're not comfortable with the manifest word, you can say what you have trained your brain to goal set.
There you go.
Or, you know, just your thoughts on the subconscious mind. If you have any brainy thoughts or any tips or tricks for our other listeners on how to change the subconscious thoughts that are running in the background, feel free to reach out to us. If you are a specialist in this area,
yes,
next season we are going to start having guests on. So if you would like to be a person that comes on as a guest speaker and you have some expertise in this area, also reach out to us.
Yes.
Comment below or on any of our social sites, or you can email us at growingupforadults23@outlook.com.
Thank you, friends.
Love you.
I appreciate all of you for listening.
Yeah. See you next week.